Happy Tuesday. It's time for Coffee and Crazy Words. I don't know if you're going to hear the thunder rolling here outside of Nashville, but I sure can. You know, when you actually move to the South, you understand country music better. That has absolutely happened. Did you know that Shoney's was a restaurant chain? I had no idea. It was in that Third Rock from the Sun song that I love. Anyway, happy Tuesday. We've got a lot on the docket today. We're going to do a quick lawyers in the news because there are some stories that are very interesting. Then we're just going to get into what to expect from Britney Spears' court hearing tomorrow. There is so much on the docket. We're going to go through some of the probate notes together and break down what the judge is considering. And you will see the notes that they are going to be having to parse through for tomorrow's hearing. I think a whole bunch of stuff is going to get put out to another day. I have speculation about why. And we've got those two new motions filed by Jody Montgomery where she is just coming in swinging for Dad Spears' head. So we're going to talk about that too. And then I plan to leave lots of time for questions because so much happened last week. There's new motions in Britney. We've got, a new Toddy Westbrook lawsuit. Like shit's going down. It's going down. I'm yelling timber. Like shit's happening. So we need to get into questions and a lot of questions because our streams have been going so long that we have not had time to get to questions. So let's get into it. Let's get into all of it. Let me know where you're coming in from. It's so good to see you. And we will just get rolling right now. We're just going to get rolling right now. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the Cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. Hello, international crew. It's so good to see all of you. I saw a lot of you on our Saturday stream this week. I think I'm going to try to incorporate some Saturday streams mid-morning because it really did seem to help with the international crew being able to make a live. For all of you that this is your first live, please go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat so we can say hello. For those of you who are here for the first time, replay crew. Big love. There will be timestamps down below when we get into all of the different things. To all of our English friends, I'm sorry. To all of our Italian friends, congrats. Something happened with soccer or football or whatever it's called. There was like sports ball happened. Sports ball happened. There was also a big UFC fight over the weekend. I watched some of that. The thing about the UFC is the broken bones is hard for me. I don't like seeing it. I worked as an EMT for a little bit. Broken bones literally like flip my stomach. It's just one of those things. So I was like, do you guys remember when Rich Franklin's like nose got flattened into his entire face by, I think it was Anderson Silva? Oh God, it looked hard to watch. So that happened this weekend. Jake Paul probably talked a bunch of shit about Conor McGregor. So, that happened. Those are the things that happened. So yay sports ball and go UFC, I guess is what's going on. Normally we would do a bit of a weekly roundup. Weekly roundup is getting pushed to Friday this week because there's so much in these probate notes for Britney and then the two new motions, and motions take a minute to go through. There's some shade in those motions. So it's like there's stuff. You guys are like, wait, we have questions. We have questions about me working as an EMT. I worked as an EMT when I was in after I transferred from UMass. When I hurt my shoulder and stopped playing water polo, I took my EMT courses so that I could make more money as a lifeguard and worked as an EMT briefly and got paid more as a lifeguard. I worked as a horseback riding instructor. I've had a lot of jobs. I've done a lot of things. And we're definitely going to talk about water polo and this Netflix lawsuit, hopefully on Friday, because this college admissions scandal is so fascinating to me still, Operation Varsity Blues. And we're going to talk about USC a little bit. Look, my family, just full disclosure, my family's a UCLA family. So there will be shade to USC. That's just what's going to happen. But if you are a USC person, you know that I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those other USC people. So don't you worry. But we're going to talk about the Netflix lawsuit with Operation Varsity Blues, and one of the kids is suing. He was a water polo player, and like somehow the Netflix special maybe indicated that he couldn't be on the water polo team. The water polo coach, by the way, the USC water polo coach, got arrested in all of this. There was a dental professor that actually is somebody my husband had like sat through lectures with and gone to lectures of, who got caught up in all of this. And my husband's like, well, if you're a professor at USC, like it's easier for your kids to get in. Why are you caught up in Operation Varsity Blues? He recently pled. So that stuff we're going to kind of talk about on Friday. Thank you, Darian. I appreciate that. This is my happy place. And every now and then I see the comments like, why did you stop practicing? Why aren't you practicing law? This is more fun. This is just more fun. This is my happy place. We should all understand the law. I get to understand the law with everybody. It's just, we get to do all the things. Taylor Swifting, things are getting tense in the water polo fandom. Yeah, things are going to get real tense. So we'll talk about water polo on Friday as we run up to the Olympics. Because water polo is actually something I know about. And the law. We're going to talk about USC real quick because they are in the news. This is a lawyer in the news story because it's talking about how much the lawyers are getting paid out of this landmark scandal that's come out of USC. First, a trigger warning. The shit that happened in this case is gross. It involves a campus gynecologist and abuse of female students. I am not going to get into any more details about it than that, because what we are talking about is the kind of the overall settlement, how much is being settled for. There are criminal charges pending in this case, but also how much the lawyers got paid, because these lawyers are for sure in the news, but also because, let's be honest, when we talk about how much money Tom Girardi would have made off of some of these settlements, I really want you all to understand how much money Tom Girardi would have made in some of these settlements, and talking about other cases settling really helps with that. So we've got 3 cases with lawyers in the news. We're going to get to the Sidney Powell Kraken shit last. Let's get into this one first. Lawyers in the news. News. USC is paying $19 million in attorney's fees in this inappropriate gynecologist on campus case. $19 million. The agreed upon class settlement is $215 million. What I appreciate that they did in this case is that the $19 million in legal fees and $756,000 in hard costs is not coming out of the settlement. This is coming out of USC's pocket. So USC has to pay the $215 million settlement that goes to the class participants, or the individuals in the class, and the $19 million comes separately out of the money. So if you are a USC supporter, just know that your money that gets donated to the university, $215 million of it plus another $19 million is going to deal with this disgusting shit. So that's what's happening over at USC. But $19 million for the attorney's fees, $215 million to the women in this class. I'm going to break down this story a little bit without getting into the details of this. I think we can all, we're adults here. We can imagine when we're talking about a lady doctor, well, a male doctor doing gynecology, and abuse coming out of that profession. So it's interesting to me that the hard costs in this class action are $756,000. Clearly, the hard costs in this are less than the hard cost in the Britney Spears case, which is very interesting to me. So I'm going to break down a little bit. This article that I am relying on came from Law 360. I love Law 360. They do a great job literally breaking down the facts without any spin, and they have the legal documents if you have a subscription, which I have, #not sponsored, but Law 360. I bet you they don't even work. Well, 360 is like, why would we advertise on YouTube? We're a service for attorneys. Weird. I really appreciate, though, that the attorneys' fees and costs are not coming from the settlement fund. Often they do come from the settlement fund. In these contingency cases we talk about with Tom Girardi and others, it's normally the class would get, in this case, $215 million. And then the lawyers would take their fees, then they would take their cost. I always think they should take fees first and then cost, but no, they take their lawyers' fees first, then their hard costs, and then what's left goes to the class. In this case, the $215 million goes to the class. The lawyers' fees get paid separately. So that total, you guys can add it up. In April, the attorneys asked for $24.2 million in legal fees. The parties had agreed going into this that $25 million was the maximum amount of legal fees that the attorneys would be getting. Like what? And USC was like, yeah, we have nothing to say about that. Didn't object to it. So they say that the request for fees reflects the work that they put in on the class, that this was the larger ever settlement of a sexual abuse class action, which is interesting to me. But at $215 million, I am not surprised. There were over 18,000 victims in this class. So each class member will be receiving between about $3,000 and $290,000, depending on that individual's situation, if you will. So it will vary by class member. The doctor or the former doctor is facing felony allegations in the LA County Superior Court, well, the criminal court. So I need to look and see who in the DA's office is prosecuting that, because now I'm really curious. I'm really curious. We're going to make a call. We're going to find out, because I'm curious in the criminal case how many named victims there are in that criminal case, because there are 18,000 class members in this case. This doctor worked at the Student Health Center from 1989 to 2017. I'm not going to get into the details of it. I will link, if this is a public article, I will link it. But inappropriate things happening during lady exams is what we're going to stick with. About 800 women. So that's 18,000 class victims. 800 women opted out of it to pursue independent claims in state court, not these federal claims. And they reached an $852 million deal in March. So $215 million here, $852 million there. And that is the largest known personal injury settlement against a university ever. So USC, somebody added up, $852 million to the 800 women, $215 million to this class of women, plus $19 million. Thank you, chat, for doing the math. It's just so much. So fucking much. Which lets you know exactly how gross not just the behavior is, but how many there are in the class. So lawyers in the news, those lawyers are getting $19 million. What? So yeah, that. CM Nelson said, why here not as a lawyer? Can you be our Emily, lecture, singing, dramatize, and of course use the Cursey words? I mean, yes. I am, well, when I say in my disclaimer, not your lawyer, it's because this chat does not create a attorney-client privilege, and this is not legal advice. That is why. Finding Hope said $1.171 billion. Roughly $1.2 billion. Thank you. Alex L., what is USC? The University of Southern California is a famed university in Los Angeles. It's actually right in South LA. I actually had a friend from high school get stabbed in the parking lot at USC. They survived. But USC is right down there by Mo Better Meaty Meat Burgers, which is Mo Better Meaty Meat Burgers still open? I hope that it is. USC has a nationally ranked football team. They also have a history of doing some things, paying athletes that shouldn't be paid. Now that's all changed, but things like that. So USC. And I will link the article down in the description. I will also look for other articles if this one's not public. So this is where the I didn't say it, Danielle. This is where Shannon Bedore's trust to the university is going. If I was donating money to USC, I would be fucking pissed. I'd be like, no, 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 no. No, no. Why? Why? There are 18,000 women plus another 800 women. Like, this is thousands and thousands of women. How was this person not fired? I have so many questions. And the reason this person was not fired is probably part of what came out in this case, and is why there is this massive amount of settlements. But you know what? For the women who had to go through this, that breach of trust is awful. But at least they reported it. They went through this lawsuit. They spoke up for themselves, and I'm so glad that they did. It hurts my heart that this many young college students trying to just get basic necessary health care had to go through this. That's disgusting, and it's awful. Let's move on to other lawyers in the news doing, things that, well, are less awful than this, but still interesting. This also, I have not seen this story reported anywhere, but this involves Jennifer Aniston's ex, Justin Theroux. Did I pronounce that correctly? Let me know in the chat. Justin Theroux is suing his neighbor, who's a lawyer, saying that the lawyer neighbor has been using his legal education and legal training as, quote, a twisted sport to bully and intimidate the actor who is his neighbor in New York. So this is this is a lawyer being a total asshole to his neighbor. Can we imagine lawyers being total dicks? I think we can. I think we can imagine it. They are in the middle of this massive discovery motion. There has been ongoing discovery since 2017 when this lawsuit was filed. There have been over 8,000 pages of discovery, and the law firm has been arguing that the communications between the lawyer, who's a partner, and other people in his firm were protected communications. Justin Theroux is like, no, they're not. They weren't your lawyers, so they're not protected communications. Because it looks like this lawyer was having the other members at the firm help research the law to use it as a weapon against Justin Theroux. Apparently, the neighbor also alleged in this lawsuit thrashed their up rooftop kind of balcony or rooftop living area in New York. I know TV tells me that that's common. Well, not common, that's common in the bougie buildings in New York. So trash their kind of upstairs living area and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see the emails between all of these lawyers being determined that they can be turned over. So now Justin Theroux's attorneys will have all these emails to see exactly what this lawyer was doing and how much time he had not the partners, but the other associates in this firm that he was a partner to, researching his own petty bullshit with his neighbor. If you ever get into a neighbor dispute, getting into a neighbor dispute with a lawyer that acts like an asshole is not good. There was a judge in LA who was a supervisor of mine when I was at the DA's office, who I really liked, but ended up in this massive case because he and his neighbor had this ongoing fight over dog poop, and ended up throwing dog poop or yelling at the neighbor, and the neighbor threw dog poop at him. And there was this dog poop on the lawn hurling thing in the news. I'll have to find that for an old school retroactive lawyers in the news, because these neighbor disputes, if you've ever been in a neighbor disputes can be fucking horrifying. But I just loved that Justin Theroux's lawyers talked about the weaponizing legal training in a, quote, twisted sport to bully and intimidate the actor. Wild, wild stuff. All right, last lawyers in the news before we get into Britney stuff is got to be the fallout from the Kraken lawsuit. There was no Kraken. The Kraken never got released. So let's talk about this real quick. Kraken lawsuit. Look, the Kraken lawsuit is politically motivated and politically charged. I appreciate all of you minding our chat guidelines and not hurling names and insults and all of the things. The reason that I talk about some of the stuff that touches into our very charged political sphere is because we have to be able to parse First Amendment protections away from polarizing political figures. And we have to make sure that when lawyers stand up for those who are politically disfavored, the lawyers are not punished for doing nothing wrong. I'm not saying these lawyers did nothing wrong. That is not the case here, in my opinion. But I keep an eye on these things because we should have legal representation for individuals, whether they are politically favored or disfavored. But lawyers still have rules, and lawyers can't lie to the court. The lawyers in this case, Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell, are arguing that they had affidavits, that they believed their case, that this case wasn't total bullshit. The judge called the case fantastical. What you can't do is just make wild leaping assumptions and put those in a lawsuit and file it. You have to have like reasonable belief that there's like evidentiary support of your claims, to quote Elle Woods, because you need to have a reasonable belief that your claims have like evidentiary support and shit. You have to have facts. If lawyers have affidavits and believe that they have facts, they should also not be subjected to people going against their license in a political witch hunt. Again, I'm not saying that's the case here. What I'm saying is this is an interesting case to look at to see what this judge decides, because it is difficult. And we want to make sure that lawyers aren't essentially persecuted for standing up for the politically disfavored, because that pendulum can swing real quick, and it's troubling to me. But lawyers have to be able to stand up for the politically disfavored in an ethical and true way, because your obligation to the court comes first. The judge in this case does not believe that the Michigan lawsuits were anything other than frivolous. And that's exactly what the judge said on the record yesterday during the sanction hearing. They said that the attorneys did not do any due diligence, that they didn't do even the minimum duty that an attorney need to do. And the issue the court took was with the lawyer's sworn affidavit. So the lawyer's sworn affidavit being submitted to the court, not being grounded in, facts. You can't just swear an affidavit to say shit. So that was the court's issue. The court is allowing for additional briefing from the lawyers before the court decides if there will be sanctions or if this will be forwarded on to the different bar associations to see if these attorneys should have either action against their licenses or be disbarred. You cannot make wild claims that are unfounded and put them in a sworn declaration and say, see, it's all good. If these attorneys had reasonable belief that the things in their affidavit were true, they are going to have to prove that. The court said that the affidavits are fantastical, that they've never seen an affidavit that makes so many leaps. And the question to counsel is, how could any of you as officers of the court present this affidavit? So how could you present this? We don't think there's facts. Of course, Powell maintains that this was actually adequate, that this was a part of their legal responsibility, that they were representing their client and that they had reasonable belief for the things in their affidavits and that they are being subject to essentially political persecution. So it will be very interesting to see. Forbes did a really great breakdown on this, and others have too. Note that this will and can play into the defamation suit, because if you have a court saying, look, these claims are false, these claims made to the court don't have evidentiary backing, it's going to play into these defamation suits saying, look, this other court found that the claims in the affidavit were false. And are those claims defamatory? Because those claims were echoed in other places. Litigation privilege then might not cover these. So it's going to absolutely play in to the defamation suit going on between the voting machine systems and Sidney Powell. So we will see what happens. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see if there's sanctions here. And keep an eye on what the response is, because we're going to look at both sides of this. If there are affidavits that backed up these claims sufficient for a lawsuit and sufficient for an affidavit, then we'll talk about it. If there's not, then the court's completely on the right track, and that will be interesting to see. So we will get back to lawyers in the news on this when the court makes their rulings. It will probably be a couple of weeks, if not a month, because the lawyers are allowed to submit some additional things. The court, though, from all the quotes I've read from the hearing, the court's fucking pissed about all of this. The court is not amused. The court is not happy, and the court thinks that these affidavits were lies to the court, and that is what you can't do. All right, I'm going to sweep a few super chats. Thank you for the super chats. That is tremendously generous and kind. And then we are going to get into Britney motions. So we're going to take a brief palate cleanser. Alicia said, I was a paralegal for 6 years. This isn't even the worst thing I've heard of a partner using his associates to research for his personal life. Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure that partners have had their associates research all kinds of things, book hotels for them to meet with their mistress, all of the things. Partners can be very abusive. Heidi K, Emily Darling, hello. When you put in the Cruella voice, you realize I'll now read it in that voice. I'm becoming Nick Rekieta over here. His chat regularly asks him to say things in voice. I love your eyebrows and your energy. Why, thank you. We try to keep the eyebrows snatched. It actually brings the energy. I'm on holiday, but my beautiful kitty Regan is being cared for separately. You've cheered me up. Thank you. Well, yay. I'm glad you're on holiday. GK. Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I'm also dyslexic. And I forgot to read that. So for those of you just listening in the background, I do have ADHD. I am dyslexic. I talk about it in quite a lot of my content because it was something I was really embarrassed by earlier in my life and something I tried to overcome and then burnt myself right the fuck out doing that. I talk about it in my TED Talk. So Garciela says, so rare that I catch a live. Recently realized that my new favorite channel is a lawyer commentary channel. Thanks for making it fun and easy to understand. You're welcome. You're welcome. Who would have thought? I know a lot of you find the channel and are like, legal commentary. Why do I need this in my life? I know. I feel the same way. Question, hi, I love you, but never get to catch lives. Yay. Would you ever do a Q&A video answering questions from the replay crew? I will do Q&As. I normally put the questions, it's been a while, and I will do another one. I have some up on this channel under the Emily Show, but I will always put it up in the, I'll put it up on the community tab, and I should do one with cases so people could submit them for sure. Yes, we're going to talk about Drake Bell, but not today. I haven't even had a chance to dig into that. There's two of them that I want to talk about that involve the inappropriate discussions with minors, but that discussion always ties back into James Charles as well, so we will do that. Just not today. Thoughts on Judge Fry mandating COVID vaccine as a part of probation sentencing for less time? I haven't looked into the judge's ruling on that. I am always concerned when we are forcing people to make decisions that might not be made with their doctor, because who is a judge to say that that is the right thing for that person? Those are my initial thoughts. It seems like maybe you can't incentivize medical treatment that way. I mean, you can incentivize like alcohol treatment and anger management for less time. I don't know if the vaccine should be used that way, but I would have to look at the ruling. So those are my initial first thoughts. Hello, Natalie Lawyer Chick. I'm also baffled as to how they thought they would get away with this, because like reasonable belief of evidentiary support, right? They have to have, and it seems that they didn't. Almost a Shirley, my son's club and high school water polo teammate just made the men's Olympic team goalie. Drew Holland, congratulations, nice kid. Congratulations, my brother was a goalie at UCLA, and one of the goalies he played with had been the long-standing water polo goalie. The amount of water polo people that I know. Almost a Shirley, if you want to DM me which club it is, were they playing for Trojan? Were they playing in Orange County? Because I'm guessing it's a California club. Bree said, happy Fragile X Awareness Month. My son has Fragile X and just wanted to celebrate with my crew. Thank you so much. All right, let's get into the Britney stuff. because there is so much. There's so much. All right. We are going to do the 2 new rulings, and then we are going to go over the probate notes about what is up for tomorrow. So I will be back to sweep the chat when I am done with these rulings, and because otherwise I will get distracted and I will never, ever finish these rulings. So let me pull up. Of course, I have the other stuff up, but not the new Montgomery rulings up, because why would I? Because why would we be prepared? Hello, Amy Yost. It's so good to see you. I thought I had them up. I must have closed them. Trial prep and full-time school have kept me from catching lives on the regular. However, I forced myself to work from home today just for this live. Oh, you're so sweet, because your girl's going through withdrawal. So glad I did. Well, glad we can be on in the background. Trial prep is such a lot of work. I totally get it. Elizabeth, I'm so sorry that your pawnerd has gone across the Rainbow Bridge. It is one of the hardest things we deal with as humans, is losing our pawnards. I am still not recovered, and it's been over a year. So I get it. So we're sorry, Mischief. And I'm sorry for your loss. It sucks. It's really hard stuff. Okay. Britney hearings, the latest and greatest. We've got one from the 9th and one from the 12th. Both coming in hot from Jody Montgomery. Let's go to the one on the 9th first, because, that is actually much more helpful. Emily, let's pull up the more accurate one. The first time I learned how to duplicate tabs in Google. It's actually saved me quite a lot of time. I'm very excited about that. All right. Where is that new? On the 9th, I looked for new motions, and this had not populated on the court's website when we were live on Friday. Like, I saw that there were new motions, but the actual motion wasn't loaded yet. So on Friday night, when I was trying to grab stuff, this is one of the things I was trying to grab and couldn't. So by a brief road so far, I'm going to talk about what's preceding each of these motions as we get into the motions. So this is Jody Montgomery's first motion that was filed. This was filed at 5:14 p.m. on Friday, and then hadn't populated on the court website before we finished with Friday Night Live. This is Jody Montgomery's reply to James Spears's response to CAC Sam Ingham's petition to appoint Jody Montgomery as conservator of the person. Say that 5 times fast. You should do the YouTube things just for me actually breaking down that very long sentence. Like and subscribe things. So Sam Ingham filed a motion forever ago to appoint Jody Montgomery as the permanent conservator of the person. Right now, she is the temporary conservator of the person. The conservator of the person is still technically Dad Spears, with Jody Montgomery acting as the temporary conservator of the person, meaning if Jody Montgomery left, Dad Spears is conservator of the person again, which brings me a lot of concern when Dad Spears is not paying for her safety and security, because that would, if she bounced, it would just default him to conservator of the person again, which causes me pause. So Sam Ingham filed to have Jody Montgomery made the permanent conservator of the person. This would terminate the rights of Dad Spears as conservator of the person, which means if anything happened to Jody Montgomery, he would have to be reappointed again. There could be room for objections and what have you. Dad Spears, objected, replied to it with some objections. We went over that 2 weeks ago or so. This is now Jody Montgomery's reply to Dad Spears' response to Sam Ingham's motion to make Jody the conservator of the person. And this is going to be heard on the 14th with everything else. I don't even know if they'll get to this on the 14th. They're going to have to get to it soon because the conservatorship papers for Jody Montgomery expire in September. So this is going to have to be addressed soon. I imagine this will get bumped over till August, and because there's so much on the docket. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Jody Montgomery, as temporary conservator of the person, replies to Dad Spears. How has it come to this? She says. We're just going to do a dramatic reading. How has it come to this? Dad Spears, no, that's not what it says. That's just what we call him on this channel. It says Mr. Spears. We're not doing that. We call him Dad Spears because it gets too confusing otherwise between Jamie and Jamie Lynn and all the people. He's Dad Spears. Also, Mr. is kind of a sign of respect. So we're not doing that. Dad Spears as the conservator of the estate and Montgomery as the conservator of the person should be working together as a team to ensure that Britney's best interests are being met, that she's on a path to recovery, and termination of her conservatorship. Yeah. You think? You think? Where's the path to end this? Jody Montgomery's like, that's what we should be doing. And Dad Spears is like, my supposition. I wonder if Dad Spears is like, but then where does my money go? It's my supposition. I just wonder. I have questions. And that she, Britney, is living her best life possible. I wish they had just left it with living her best. Maybe living her best life. Maybe that's too informal for court. I would have liked. And that she is living her best or her best life. We could take out the possible. My preference, it's not a criticism. It's just, wouldn't it be great if? Instead, Dad Spears has decided it is time to start finger pointing and media attacks. Ha! Yep. And charging Britney's estate for the lawyers that defend him when the media attacks him. And that too. That's happening too. Even opposing Miss Montgomery's security admits a flood of death threats. Oh, and the emails that said he was cool with it. And the emails that said he was cool. Turning what should be a protective proceeding for his daughter into litigation warfare. In the process, he has demanded multiple evidentiary hearings to defend himself against Britney's accusations on her dime. Oh, we're well aware. And has spent $10,000 a day, also on her dime, to fund his public relations and legal fees. The ever-loving fuck. It does say a work day. So what is that? $70,000 a week? No, that would be $50,000 a week. He's opposing her personal security because it's too expensive for the estate. But spending $50,000 a week on public relations? Really? Really? Come the fuck on. We're going to get into this in a little bit. The court talks about the dates when they approved the estate paying for Dad Spears' legal fees years and years and years ago. It's in the probate notes we're going over today. But come the fuck on. Okay, we got to keep going or I'm never going to get through this if I keep just ranting. I apologize. I don't apologize. Sorry, not sorry. You all feel me. You're with me on this. The fuck, $50,000 a week. I should be spending $50,000 a week on PR. Maybe we'd get verified. Maybe then we'd be verified. I'm teasing. I really don't give a fuck. All right, let's keep going. The mudslinging by Mr. Spears and his new "it wasn't me" strategy. Everyone in the chat say it together. It wasn't me. Baby came in and she caught me red-handed. It wasn't me. Yeah, no. Has he taken this from the Cheeto commercial or from the original song? Because the original song's better than the Cheeto commercial, but the Cheeto commercial was actually cheeky. But this is a new "it wasn't me" strategy. You guys have a petition for DEFCON Red. Motion for DEFCON Red. Who in the chat agrees with motion for DEFCON Red? Motion for DEFCON Red? I mean, right? I think the motion's granted. Motion's granted. Picture this, we were both butt naked, banging on the bathroom floor. Look, this is not me making light of this. This is wild shit. You guys are like, red. We're going red. I still need to do this by voice. I keep meaning to. We're like DEFCON hot pink, but yes to DEFCON what the fuckery. Because you know what? Look. 50K a week? That should be coming out of his own pocket. And the court should make that come out of his own pocket. Okay, let us continue. It does say public relations and legal fees, but half of this legal feels like PR anyway. The mudslinging by Mr. Spears and his new "it wasn't me" strategy after being her sole or co-conservator for more than 13 years leaves Miss Montgomery no choice but to defend herself. Dad Spears wants Miss Montgomery to stay Britney, not Mr. Mrs. Britney Spears wants Miss Montgomery to stay safe. Obviously. There is no question that Ms. Spears voiced her displeasure with the constraints of her conservatorship at the June 23rd hearing. Nonetheless, Britney has been in constant communication with Ms. Montgomery since then. She has continuously asked Montgomery to help her with various matters related to the conservatorship. Notably, she has never asked Ms. Montgomery to leave, and Ms. Montgomery is committed to assist Ms. Spears in any way she can until Ms. Spears says she wants her to go. To date, that has not happened. On the contrary, as recently as Friday, July 2nd, Ms. Spears asked Ms. Montgomery to say, see Exhibit A, a true and correct copy of text messages between Spears and Montgomery. Since, by his own admission, he has been cut off from communicating with his daughter at her request, it is unclear how Dad Spears knows that the retention of Ms. Montgomery does not reflect her wishes. Whoomp, there it is. Your daughter won't talk to you. She talks to me. So how the fuck can you say what she wants? She doesn't want you here. That's clear. The amount of motions that have been filed to remove Dad Spears from this, and he has continued to have his claws into this conservatorship again and again and again. He fought like hell when Bessemer was coming in to not give Bessemer authority to look at the financial records. I wonder why. I have questions. And the court was like, no, Bessemer gets full access to everything, which is why I'm so mad there's that motion to resign from Bessemer. I hope that they reconsider that after talking to the court and after Britney gets to talk to the court tomorrow. Despite what Mr. Spears says, as of the date of this filing, Ms. Spears wants Ms. Montgomery to say the same cannot be said for her father. Boom. Accurate. This is just, they are just going to continue to blow up at each other. And you know what? I want to hear more about what Jodi Montgomery has to say that Britney's saying behind the scenes. I want to know. So I am here for it. I am saddened that this amount of legal bullshit is costing Britney more money. But if this flare up is what gets this to end, then I think for Britney, it will be worth it because I don't think she cares about the money. She just doesn't want her father involved. Britney wants her father to go, but he won't. It is ironic that Dad Spears now wants the conservatorship to reflect her wishes, since it's no secret that Britney wished her father out of her life for years. If the June 23rd hearing showed anything, it was that Britney Spears does not want her father in control of any aspect of her life as conservator of the person or estate. Yeah, Sam Ingham asked to have him removed as conservator of the estate and as conservator of the person, and he has been fighting it, and the court denied that motion in November. Indeed, Britney has sent Montgomery countless messages expressing her wishes to remove her father as conservator in any capacity, which should be a focus. New lawyer, remove Dad. Everything else can sort out later. Despite this newfound commitment to her wishes, Mr. Spears has never been willing to relinquish control. He has been either her sole conservator or co-conservator since the start more than 13 years ago. Indeed, for the first time in his response file with this court, we learned that Dad Spears has no intention in serving in the role of conservator of the person for Miss Spears. This comes as a surprise to Miss Spears' care team, and notably, despite this stated intention, he has never submitted a formal resignation. Here's why this matters. When Dad Spears stepped down, he stepped down temporarily due to health issues. Coincidentally timed when there was also a restraining order against him by Britney's children, but he said it was for health reasons to the court, but it was a temporary step down, allowing Jodi Montgomery to temporarily take up as the conservator of the person. He never resigned as conservator of the person. So if something happened to Miss Montgomery, Dad Spears is conservator of the person. And that is what is being pointed out here. Instead, he left that possibility open in the event that his nuclear litigation and PR strategy, funded with more than $2 million of his daughter's money, forces everyone else off of her conservatorship case. Well, I don't even have to speculate anymore because they just said what I was thinking. Because that's what I was thinking. When I saw the denial of the security fees, that's what I was thinking. Do we just try to scare everyone else away? Sam Ingham seems to have submitted his resignation after receiving threatening voicemails. You know how I feel about it. Do your job. Don't let a few voicemails scare you off, though I understand how terrifying that can be, but also your job. But I was speculating about this, and apparently Jody Montgomery and her lawyers are like, oh, we see the strategy here. It wasn't me, and let everybody else scare everybody else away so we can regain control. This strategy will not work with Ms. Montgomery. She's committed to staying despite the numerous threats against her so that she can seek reevaluation of the powers and restriction currently in place in a new care plan. We talked about that after the last hearing, that I suspected a new care plan was exactly what was going to happen next, with the goal of eventually terminating the conservatorship. Now, I know the word eventually is not going to be happy to everybody, but they have to get the care plan in a place where it's less restrictive. If Britney wants to terminate the conservatorship without an evaluation, they have to step down the care plan, and then that can serve as the evidence that the conservatorship is no longer needed, possibly without a reevaluation. So this seems like trying to meet both of Britney's goals of ending the conservatorship and not having her be reevaluated. And that I don't think is a bad thing. A goal that may not necessarily be shared by Dad Spears or his attorney. Yeah, I can see why terminating the conservatorship is not a goal shared by Dad Spears and his attorneys. Because money. Follow the money. I like that this heading is other pot shots and innuendo in Dad Spears' response. Miss Montgomery did not want to engage in a tit for tat, but having seen Dad Spears' innuendo in his response, Miss Montgomery, a professional fiduciary, feels forced to respond as follows. I didn't want to do this, but you made me say the things. All up in these court documents. Dad Spears' demand for an investigation and evidentiary hearing. Dad Spears' repeated demands ignore the fact that, as required by Probate Code Section 1850, this case has been investigated by the court on an ongoing basis since its inception. In fact, it is our understanding that the Probate Investigator's Office has investigated this case at least annually, if not more frequently, since 2008. Well, okay. So the Probate Investigator's Office has been investigating this case at least once a year, if not more, since 2008. But what are they doing? What is that investigation? Are they just asking Dad Spears if everything is cool? Like, you good? We're good? Okay, we're good. I have questions about what those investigations have entailed. Don't you? Don't you have questions? We all have questions. In light of these investigations, Dad Spears' current demand can only be a thinly veiled attempt to use his daughter's money to defend himself against her accusations on the June 23rd, 2021 hearing. Isn't that what we all said when we read through his motion, going, okay, you're asking for an investigation to seem like you give a shit? I think if you go back to that video, that's exactly what was said. If this court does order additional investigation, perhaps it can begin with who Miss Spears wants to serve as her conservators until her conservatorship can be terminated. Yes, that's a good place to start, because they've made multiple motions to get rid of Dad. Medical powers. Dad Spears implies that Britney Spears' own counsel and Montgomery have conspired with respect to Britney's medical powers. As Dad Spears well knows, Montgomery is currently preparing a comprehensive... Words are hard this morning. I apologize. Montgomery is currently preparing a comprehensive care plan with Britney's medical team that will address the issues raised at the June 23rd hearing, including those related to her tenure as temporary conservator of the person. The medical team will also address the need or lack thereof for medical powers under Probate Code 2355, because we're going to get into that when we get into the notes. The care plan will set forth a path for termination of the conservatorship. That's a good thing, that a care plan says, hey, these are the phases that we are going to go through to move towards termination, which makes more sense than saying, because the court's never going to be like, okay, tomorrow we terminate. There's going to have to be a phased care plan. Miss Spears and Miss Montgomery look forward to supporting Miss Spears through the process. I read that awkwardly. The care plan will set forth a path for termination of the conservatorship for Britney, and Miss Montgomery looks forward to supporting her through the process. Dad Spears is invented invented ignorance of anything in the last 21 months. They're just like coming in hot on this with all the tea. Dad Spears points fingers at Montgomery, implying that for the last 21 months, he has had absolutely no involvement in Britney's day-to-day personal care or medical treatment, but this ignores the simple fact that everything costs money. And he's the one who can say yes or no to the money. Because Miss Montgomery does not have the power or authority over Britney Spears' money, every expenditure made by Miss Montgomery for Miss Spears has to be approved by Dad Spears as the conservator of the estate. Some expenses are pre-approved, but if new expenses or increased expenses in existing services are sought, Dad Spears has to approve the expenditure. No expenditures can happen without going through Dad Spears. Ms. Montgomery has advocated on Britney's behalf for any expenditures that Britney has requested, as well as expenditures recommended by Britney's medical team. Not every requested expenditure has been approved, leading to some concerns raised by Britney on June 23rd, 2021. Is Ms. Montgomery implying that some of the requested expenditures have not been approved, leading to some of the concerns raised? Are those medical expenses or are those personal care expenses? We don't know, but it leaves it open saying, look, Dad Spears knows everything that's happening because he's the one that has to approve literally every expense. Dad Spears has been cut off by Britney. Dad Spears implies that Montgomery and others have prevented Britney from contacting him. What he fails to state is that Britney is the one who cut him off. Montgomery has never interfered with Dad Spears' communication with his daughter. Instead, consistent with Spears' clear and consistent wishes that she no longer wants her father serving as her conservator, Britney has also made the choice that she does not want to speak with him. That is her choice, not Miss Montgomery's. So Dad Spears saying, you won't let me have access to my daughter, and them saying, your daughter doesn't want to fucking talk to you, and that is her right. Miss Spears has always had the right to marry. Dad Spears claims that he only allowed Miss Spears, this is awkward. Dad Spears claims that only he allowed Miss Spears to marry, implying that Montgomery somehow interfered with that right. That's simply not true. Under Probate Code Section 1900, Spears has always had the right to marry, and Montgomery, as a professional fiduciary, knows and honors that. Conclusion, notably, Dad Spears' pleading is entitled response and not objection, leaving the petition still unopposed. Because it was an objection, but he didn't want to call it an objection for what reason? Because he didn't want the headline to be Dad Spears objects to Jody Montgomery being conservator of the person. Instead, he was like, it's a response. I just have things to say. I have thoughts. Let me just put them in my response. Which means the petition's unopposed and should just be granted. And we do agree with the response request that the petition should be continued, but for a different reason, to allow Ms. Spears to secure new counsel to represent her on all the pending matters, including the subject petition. This is especially critical since Mr. Spears is now requesting yet another evidentiary hearing to be funded by Britney in this petition as well. And I actually agree with that too. Jody Montgomery's like, look, put this over until Britney has her own attorney. Let me see if those text messages are attached. They should be here as Exhibit A. I think it's the same text message that was submitted before. I need you to stay as my co-conservator of the person. I'm asking for your assistance getting a new attorney. Thank you for your help. So Jody is saying, put this over, Britney, a new attorney. And I think on the 14th, the order of priority is new attorney. Everything else gets pushed. But we'll talk about what everything else is in a minute, because there is one more motion to talk about today, and that is Jody Montgomery's response to James Spears' petition for instructions in order investigating issues and claims raised by Britney Jean Spears at the June 23rd hearing. So we're going to get into that response right now. All right, let me pull this one up. This one's much shorter than the other one. The other one was full of information. This one's much shorter. This was filed yesterday at 10:18 a.m. So yeah, yesterday was July 12th. The hearing's tomorrow, July 14th. Do I think there will be more filings today? Possibly. Will the court look at them before tomorrow? Possibly not. So Dad Spears filed a petition for instructions and an order for investigation and asked for an evidentiary hearing. Jody Montgomery said in the last motion, look, this is coming. This should also be put over, but is addressing it in this one too, because he's asked for it in two places. So lots of legal filings. On June 23rd, Britney spoke in open court and made a number of serious allegations about her treatment since her conservatorship was established in 2008. In response, Dad Spears, as her sole conservator from the very start, filed this petition for instructions rather than actually asking for instructions as the statute contemplates. Dad Spears has instead demanded the court-ordered investigation and evidentiary hearing so he can defend himself against his daughter's accusations. This court should not take the bait. Dad Spears' thinly veiled attempt to clear his name is absolutely procedurally defective and must fail. Barring that, the petition should be continued until Britney has counsel who can fully represent her interests. So everything Jody Montgomery is filing is defaulting to let Britney get a lawyer, let Britney choose, let Britney choose, let Britney choose. I appreciate that legal standing and position because yes, let Britney choose an attorney. And we'll talk about why she hasn't been able to when we get into the notes from the probate court. This so-called, quote, petition for instruction is procedurally defective. What you can't do. It's kind of like if you file a motion asking for something, but literally the law says that you can't file that motion. We've seen a few of those on this channel. That's what's happening here. Procedurally defective means, by the way, you can't do that. Dad Spears' petition for instructions purports to be based on California Probate Code, CPC, Section 2403. 2403 provides that upon petition of the guardian or conservator, the court may authorize and instruct the guardian or conservator or approve and confirm the acts of the guardian or conservator in the administration, management, investment, disposition, care, protection, operation, or preservation of the estate, or the incurring or payment of fees, costs, expenses. Despite its title, Mr. Spears' petition for instructions has a fatal flaw. It does not actually ask for instructions! Exclamation point. It actually doesn't. All it asks for is an investigation. Asking for instructions would be, hey, we have these things. Can the court tell us which way you want us to go or what the court would like us to do in this case? Instead of, saying that whole thing felt like PR to me, but we talked about that when we covered that hearing or covered that petition. At no point does Mr. Spears actually ask for the court's approval, confirmation, or instructions as to any of his actions as conservator of the estate, as expressly required by Section 2403. Actually, the only time he talks about actual instructions is in the email that his attorney sends telling Jody Montgomery to get instructions from the court to pay her security fees. That would be an instruction. Your Honor, the conservator of the person is asking for security. Will the court instruct the conservatorship of the estate to pay for it or not? Can you give us guidance on that? That's an appropriate instruction. That's not what's asked for here. They go on to say, rather than actually ask for instructions, as he claims, Spears instead directs the court. The arrogance. Tells the court to investigate the veracity of the allegations and claims made by Ms. Spears on June 23rd at the status hearing. But Mr. Spears does not stop there. He also demands an evidentiary hearing so that, quote, the court confirm whether or not Ms. Spears' testimony was accurate in order to determine what corrective actions, if any, need to be taken. I don't like that he's asking the court to determine if Britney's testimony is accurate. I don't like the way it's worded. It gives me pause. I have questions. Dad Spears claims this court-ordered investigation and evidentiary hearing is necessary so he can, quote, have a full and fair opportunity to respond to the allegations and claims asserted against him by his daughter. The court doesn't need to clear your name. Britney said what the fuck she said. Which is interesting in light of the near $1 million in fees recently incurred by his crisis PR specialist in only a 4-month period. Okay, to be fair, To be fair, it was $800,000 incurred in a 4-month period, and only some of it was for crisis PR. And there's objections about those amounts that are set for hearing on when? July 14th. It wasn't the whole $800,000. Some of it is legal fees. But, you know, but this latest demand for an investigation and evidentiary hearing under the guise of instructions appears to be a continuation of that public relations campaign. Further evidentiary hearings in probate court are only had on petitions to seek specified relief, not a petition like this seeking an investigation, because the investigation would go through the probate investigator. I understand what they are saying here. Thus, such demands to this court are not only procedurally defective under Probate Code 2403, but are wholly improper to boot. Tell us you think it's all a PR stunt without telling us you think it's all a PR stunt. They are improper to boot. That. At the very least, the petition should be continued until Spears has new counsel. We know. Spears will soon be without a lawyer to represent her interest. Britney's current counsel, Ingham, and associated counsel, Loeb and Loeb, tendered their resignations of counsel to this court. They're set for hearing on July 14th. At this time, Spears will either be appointed a new court-appointed counsel, which is clearly what the fuck she doesn't want. That's not what it says there. I added that. Or to be allowed to retain counsel of her choice through a guardian ad litem or otherwise. Clearly what she wants. There's 2 motions with regard to that. A petition to let Britney choose, essentially, from her mom, and a petition from Jody Montgomery to allow a guardian ad litem to hire the attorney so that Dad Spears can't object on capacity grounds. We'll get into that in a minute. In any event, Britney should have a voice in whether her conservatorship estate should fund an investigation and evidentiary hearing that gives Mr. Spears a full and fair opportunity to respond to allegations and claims asserted against him. I like the way they worded that. Britney should have a say in whether she wants to spend her money to have a hearing where her dad can try to clear his name. I mean, that kind of just puts a point on it, doesn't it? Thus, if the petition for instructions is not denied outright, it should be continued until Spears has counsel to evaluate and respond on her behalf. Nonetheless, Montgomery does welcome additional investigation by the court. It should be noted that as required by Probate Code Section 1850, this case has been investigated by the court on an ongoing basis since its inception. It is our understanding that the Probate Investigator's Office has investigated this case at least annually, if not more frequently, since 2008. But make no mistake, Ms. Montgomery is in full support of the court ordering additional investigations into Ms. Spears's claims. To that end, Montgomery is currently preparing a comprehensive care plan with Spears's medical team that will address all the issues raised by Britney that relate to her conservatorship of the person under Montgomery's tenure as her temporary conservator of the person. This comprehensive care plan will not just answer any questions about Miss Montgomery's tenure, but will also offer Spears a path to ending the conservatorship as she so unequivocally desires. Based on the foregoing, Miss Montgomery requests that Dad Spears' petition for instructions in order investigating the issues and claims raised by Britney on June 23rd be denied or continued. The end. All right. And that's all the service notes. That's the 2 motions from Jody Montgomery that both say a lot of the same thing. Let Britney choose an attorney. We're not doing anything else until Britney has an attorney. Put everything over until Britney has an attorney. If you want to investigate it more, fine. But don't hold a kangaroo court of theater so Dad Spears can clear his name through spending more of Britney's money in these legal filings. That's not what should happen. And I appreciate the sentiment. It is so much stuff. So much stuff. All right, let us get into the probate notes, and then we will get into questions, because it's been an hour and it's time. I see a number of you talking about the ACLU filing a brief that has not shown up in the court file yet. That has not shown up in the images yet. So I see no note of that. So they may said they filed it. They may well have filed it. It has not appeared yet on the back end of the court. So nothing new from today, nothing new from yesterday, and it's not showing up in the note of documents filed just yet, but I can look real quick. So Catherine, I appreciate that. It is not populated just yet in the case, but let's see. These things get populated at random times, which is very, very interesting. So let's see, documents filed. The only thing showing up from today are the remote appearances that are scheduled for tomorrow. The only document I can just show you. We can just show you. The only document that we're seeing filed is this one from Jody Montgomery from yesterday. Everything else, all of these are just all the remote appearances scheduled. This is the reply that we just went over, remote appearances. This is the hearing with regard to the guardian ad litem. That's for tomorrow. Hearing with regard to the security expenses for tomorrow. And we're going to go into everything else that's going to be on the calendar. So that is not here yet. That is not here yet. So let's get into the probate notes. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about what is actually on the docket for tomorrow. Because there's a lot. So on the docket for tomorrow is a whole grip of motions. Some of them are still carrying over from April. So in April, there were a bunch of motions to be heard. Sam Ingham said, look, Britney wants to speak to the court. Everything went over to June for Britney to speak to the court. And then all the motions that were on went over till July 14th to be heard. That includes a whole bunch of financial motions. Objections to the, not all of the $800,000, but objections with regard to the $800,000 in legal fees. That's brought by both Sam Ingham and Britney Spears' mom. Payments for Sam Ingham, payments for Jody Montgomery, lots and lots of financial stuff is on the docket. And then the motion for appointment of Jody Montgomery as the permanent conservator of the person, finalizing of Bessemer as the conservator and getting letters. That was supposed to happen in November, and Ingham didn't file the paperwork, and then it didn't get filed till June, and then it got signed, and then they resigned. The new motions that are on the docket are Bessemer's resignation, Ingham's resignation, Lynn Spears' petition to let Britney choose her own lawyer and hire private counsel, Dad Spears' motion for an investigation and evidentiary hearing that we just heard Jody Montgomery's response to, Jody Montgomery's motion for petition, appointment of a guardian ad litem, and Jody Montgomery's motion for extra security. All of this is secondary to whether Britney gets an attorney or not. That should be the only real concern of the court with regard to the hearing tomorrow, because the rest of this stuff, if Sam's leaving and hasn't prepared for these motions, then Britney's interests aren't adequately represented. So the court should be addressing whether Britney hires her own attorney or whether there's a guardian ad litem. And those should be that should be the first thing addressed by the court. We're going to go through some of the probate notes because there's a lot of interesting information. These are publicly available. Sometimes they can be a little thick to parse because they are literally the notes of the court. But we're going to go through some of this stuff. This is continued hearing from Tuesday, April 27th. It got continued till the June 23rd hearing. And then this last change was made July 9th. So these were touched. These were last dealt with on Friday. The hearing is tomorrow. Let's get into some of these. Every single note has a conversation about clearing probate notes and social distancing and all that stuff. This is the 12th account and current report. This is the financial stuff, so we're not going to get into it too much, but these are the financial motions that are on the docket. So this is, the court finds various fee petitions to date had notes have been cleared. The 12th accounting does not have notes to clear, but has objections that have been filed. The court okays getting into the 13th accounting. This is all going over money stuff from the estate. These are the notes about what's on the docket for the court. November 6, 2020, Britney filed an objection to some of the financials. The response was filed 12/11. This petition is subject to approval and motion for leave to file under seal. The court filed some of it under seal already. This is the continuance from April 27th. So these are all of the motions that were on the 27th that got bumped to June, that got bumped to July. Prior orders pursuant to the 427 minute order continued to 721 at 1:30. This is more fee petitions. The prior adjudication here is that James P. Spears and Andrew Wallet appointed conservators of the estate only, letters issued. James P. Spears appointed conservator of the estate only, amended letters issued 3/5/2019. James P. Spears appointed conservator of the person only, letters issued 1/9/2009. Has medical capacity, but additional orders granted. That is the note here. And see the letters. We've already talked about that. Jody Montgomery appointed temporary conservator of the person. Temporary letters first issued 9/9/2019, extended to 9/3/2021. No current temporary letters issued. Previous granted powers, orders granted, additional orders granted, see letters. And we've gone through those additional orders granted in previous content. This is the facts here. The court-appointed attorney alleges that he requested the resignation of James P. Spears, the current conservator of the person who temporarily relinquished powers effective 9/9/2019. Petitioner Ingham for Britney alleges that the proposed conservator of the person has acted as temporary conservator of the person since that time. Petitioner expressly reserves the right to petition for termination of the conservatorship under probate code. Petitioner alleges nothing within this petition should be deemed or constitute a waiver of right. Matters to clear. So this is what the court needs to consider at this next hearing. What is the status of resignation of James P. Spears as conservator of the person? Does he consent to resign? Written resignation to be filed. Supplement required for clarification. The court wants to know why James hasn't filed the resignation. Well, we know why, because he's objected to Jody Montgomery being appointed the conservator of the person. So he's not going to relinquish his rights while he's fighting Jody Montgomery getting appointed. Response filed 6/29. Objector James Spears. Oh, there is the objection. Objector is conservator of the estate. Argument. Objector argues that he is not the conservator of the person as recent as June 23rd, 2021. He appeared by conservatee appeared by telephone, made a heartfelt statement to the court for no less than 24 minutes. This is all in the minute order that we've covered. And this goes on to the objection. Objector, Dad Spears, alleges that he has not served as conservator of the person for nearly 2 years when he relinquished those powers to Montgomery. Objector alleges he has no intention of serving his role of conservator. Matters to clear. Response alleges that objector is not conservator of the person. However, his petition filed 9/6/19 to appoint Jody Montgomery as temporary conservator states that he sought to temporarily relinquish the powers of the conservatorship to the person due to personal health reasons beginning September 9th, 2019 through January 2020. Or further court order. Query whether objectioner will sign a resignation as conservator of the person. So he said, I'm not the conservator of the person. And the court's like, okay, yeah, but you've only temporarily relinquished your powers. So you haven't really resigned. You haven't signed a petition to resign. You haven't told the court you're resigning. So technically, on the record, it was a temporary relinquish of powers, not a permanent relinquish of powers. So then the court gets into what else needs to be cleared. Finding and orders. These say JTD. That means judge to determine. Judge to determine, accept resignation or remove James Spears as conservator of the person, not as prayed, which means that was not asked. Comment, see notes above. Judge to determine the proposed conservatee consents. Judge to determine that the proposed conservatee consents or does not object to the conservatorship of the person, or the conservatee objects to the conservatorship, or the conservatee is unable to consent or object. Those are three questions that the judge has to find. So the judge will have to determine, has Britney objected to the conservatorship of the person? Has she consented to the conservatorship of the person? Or is she unable to consent or object? So the court will make one of those three findings, or should make one of those three findings, or should put it over until Britney has an attorney and then make one of those three findings. So these are the orders the judge will have to make. These are lined up for the court. So the court will have to find and order these things to clear this matter with regard to the conservatee of the person. The judge to determine that the court finds the proposed conservator, Jody Montgomery, is suitable and qualified. The proposed conservatee is presumed competent to vote unless the court finds otherwise, which is news to all of us. Judge to order the proposed conservatee lacks capacity to make healthcare decisions. This is very interesting, and here's why. Comment. Paragraph 9C states that the court previously found on 10/10/2014 that conservatee lacked medical capacity. I went through every publicly available document from that date, and I did not see that finding either. And the court says, but the minute orders from that date are for the 6th account and a motion to seal. They do not reflect that such a finding was made regarding medical capacity. I'm sorry, what? So who found that the conservatee lacks the capacity to make healthcare decisions? Because the court's saying, literally, it wasn't me. The minute orders do not reflect that a finding was made. A capacity declaration has never been filed in this case. This court has reiterated this more than once. This is a voluntary conservatorship where no capacity declaration was ever filed. And when this judge took it over, the judge didn't say, that seems fucking weird. Maybe after what Britney said on the 23rd, those thoughts are happening. Maybe now. Because if no capacity declaration was filed, how do you support the court finding Britney lacked the capacity to hire her own lawyer if no capacity declaration has ever been filed? I have questions. So many questions. The previous letters of conservatorship dated 1/9/2009, and we pulled these up on another live stream. They do not reflect that the court made an order that conservatee lacks medical capacity. Although there is no prior adjudication on lack of capacity, there is a voluntary conservatorship under 1802. Quote, a conservator of the person or estate or both may be appointed for a person who voluntarily requests the appointment and who, to the satisfaction of the court, establishes good cause for the appointment. This is why this went so fast. Because the court appointed it as a voluntary conservatorship with no capacity declaration. This is why this was pushed through so fast. But after Britney's testimony, my wonder is, who said to her, if you want to be able to see your kids, this is what you have to do. If you want to be able to retain your life, this is what you have to do. Is that how this all went down? Because it sure fucking seems like it. After what she said, that they would punish her and hold things against her. This is what you have to do. This is what needs to happen. And she was just like, you know what, fuck, whatever. Thinking that it was temporary. 13 years fucking later. Probate Code Section 1811 states, E, in the interest of minimizing unnecessary expense. What? I'm sorry. I just. In the interest of minimizing unnecessary expense to the parties to a proceeding, paragraph 2 of this subdivision shall not apply to the petition pursuant to 1880, wherein the conservatee, after notice by the court of their right to object, at least which shall include an interview by a court investigator pursuant to section 1826 prior to a hearing on that petition, does not object to the proposed finding of incapacity or waives any objections. Thus, it appears a capacity declaration may not be necessary. Absent objections, appears okay to make a finding as requested in JTD number 5. It's okay to make the finding as requested in number 5 that the conservatee lacks the capacity. But what we know is that Britney was never given an opportunity for a hearing and was not told that there was going to be a hearing. So was not given the opportunity to object because she wasn't given the right to hire her own attorney. And they did it without notice to her and without a capacity declaration. I'm sorry, what? Judge to determination of conservatee's appropriate level of care to be filed within 60 days. That's the new care plan that Jody Montgomery was talking about. Additional powers. We've gone through this. The additional powers that were granted were restrict and limit visitors, retain caretakers and security, prosecute civil harassment restraining orders. We know that they've done that. Communicate with treating and expert medical personnel. We've gone through that. Objections, judge to determine continue the hearing or set the matter for evidentiary hearing, requiring the personal appearance of conservatee so that court may ascertain her true desires. Yes. Obviously, yes. Set the matter for a hearing and require the personal appearance of conservatee so that the court can ascertain her true desires. Yes. And some of that should happen tomorrow. And these are the notes for the judge. Does the judge wish to continue the court investigator report or to be completed? Does the court deem the court investigator's report unnecessary? Current no vacancy in the office of conservator of the person. See notes. And then it gets into the other stuff. Then we get into the other motions. But that gives us kind of the most illuminating perspective as to the beginning of this, that there are definitely some issues because this was determined without notice, without opportunity for objection, without capacity declaration. Then we get into, there's one more. These are all financial, but we get into the court determining, and when the court determined that Britney would pay for her dad's attorney. These are Ingham's. And it's hard to save these. I should actually just PDF them and then highlight them, and then I wouldn't have to keep looking for them. That's Ingham's. There are more. Seeks approval of payment of fees. Payment of fees for Ingham. These are all the different fee petitions. Here we go. These are all the different fee petitions that are on calendar. There's quite a lot of them that need to be cleared and approved. They will be approved. There's only really objections as to these fees with regard to James Spears, attorneys Holland and Knight. And matters to clear. Petitioner's fee request, Dad Spears, must be accompanied by a statement of facts that comply with all requests, including but not limited to why the amount requested is for each category of service provided. Holland and Knight fees requested must be accompanied by a statement of facts. Sidley Austin's fees must be accompanied by a statement of facts. Objection filed 4/19/2021 by Lynn Spears through her attorneys. Argument, objections are solely to fees for Holland and Knight. Argues that fees for $821,000 and costs of $72,000 for just over 4 months of work are problematic because the fees requested are procedurally improper, and it seeks compensation for individuals who were not approved by the court. We already went through these. The fees largely constituted a national media tour orchestrated by Holland and Knight, promoted to promote Miss Theroux and or combat media coverage about Dad Spears, portraying him in a negative light, that the hours logged are in excess for litigation services. Matters to clear, response to objection. Alleges that Lynn Spears is not acting in the best interest of conservatee. So this is Dad Spears. Alleges that objections are seriously flawed and should be overruled. Argues that it is not the role of the court or opposing parties to dictate staffing. No, it's not the court's job to review these petitions for fees, but it is. Argues that the media-related work performed by Holland and Knight was related to litigation and necessary to protect the estate. What? Alleges that both CAC and Loeb & Loeb are seeking payment of fees for time spent on media-related work as well. Relief requested, judge to determine all services and cost, which compensation and reimbursement are sought, is allowable, and in good faith, in the best interest of both Britney and her estate. Judge to allow and approve compensation to the Freeman firm. So these are going through all those little different fee petitions. Judge to determine the previous orders allowing and authorizing petitioner to pay the Freeman firm, HK and Sidley Knight, 80% of their monthly invoice fees on account and 100% of their advance cost shall remain in full force. This is the court to determine whether the previous order allowing the estate to pay all these fees should stand. And that's all of these fees here. we would be here for 7 hours if we went through all of this, which is why I'm trying to show and summarize at the same time. This is all the objections that have been made regarding to the fees. So they are objecting also and looking at whether the judge will determine that standing order to pay fees is allowed to continue to stand. And then it goes on and on about the fees. This one is also about fees. This gets into Bessemer Trust asking to leave. The judge to determine resignation of Bessemer Trust is accepted and is immediately in effect. So will the judge do this, or accepting otherwise required of Bessemer Trust is waived? Comment appears okay as petitioner has not marshaled any assets. This comment worries me that the judge is going to approve Bessemer's request. Appears okay as petitioner has not marshaled any of the assets. So this is the note that the court can go ahead and do this because Bessemer Trust has actually not gone hands-on with any of the estate assets. So I have concerns there that the court may grant this tomorrow because in effect, Bessemer Trust has not been able to actually do their job that they were appointed to do in November because of the delays of filing that paperwork that Sam Ingham was ordered to file. So I have concerns. This is Lynn Spears' permission to hire private counsel. We're just going to look at the notes here. The relief requested is that the court grant conservatee permission to hire her own legal counsel, or the court appoint a private attorney of Britney's choosing. The comments here are defer pending clearing of notes. Note that the ex-party petition for 7/8/21 has been filed by Jody Montgomery to appoint a guardian ad litem for the purpose of assisting. Ex-party date ordered if such an ex-party is set for hearing. So this is noting essentially there are competing motions with regard to Britney getting her own attorney. Let's look at the court notes going on with regard to Sam Ingham. The comments here is Jody Montgomery's petition for appointment of GAL to assist conservatee in selecting her own counsel is noted because Sam Ingham has also requested to resign. Matters to clear proof of service of interested parties needs to be cleared up. Proof of service was given to conservatee, but does not indicate notice was for this petition. Judge to determine appointment of counsel for conservatee, or to defer to the guardian ad litem petition. This is the, which one is this? This is the security expenses one and the objection. The notes here is petitioner is willing to present further details in camera with regard to the threats. Let's see what this one is. This one is the appointment of guardian ad litem. That's the one I was looking for. Notes, if conservatee is available at the time of the hearing, recommend that court query whether conservatee is amiable to appointment of guardian ad litem to assist in selection of private counsel. Yes, please. I'm amiable. Yes, please. This is a very good idea. Ask Britney if she would like to have someone appointed to help her hire counsel. And I imagine counsel will also be present saying, I am hireable. Here I am, because we've seen reports that Britney has been in conversation with a former AUSA to hire them as her attorney to get into all of this. So this is the essentially a breakdown of the motion from Jody Montgomery that we've gone through already. And that is the end of the probate notes on this. I know that it was quite a lot of information. I cannot wait to get back into the comments and see what you think. This is a lot of information. It's a lot of information. I'm going to catch up on any super chats that came in while I was running all that down, because I'm sure there were a few and I don't want to miss them. And then we're going to get into all of your questions. So I have questions. You have questions. We have questions. Let's get into questions. Please mark it with a question so I can see it. There is so much that is going to happen or scheduled to happen tomorrow, but I really think that what's going to happen tomorrow is they are going to, based on the note, remove Bessemer and determine how they're going to go forward, allowing Britney to hire her own attorney. because the court made a determination, not this court, other court made a determination in the past that Britney did not have capacity to hire her own attorney. Sam Ingham asked that she be allowed to hire counsel, and her dad objected and said she lacked capacity. How the court found that with no capacity declaration filed, I do not know. But hopefully this court will go, let's just ask her what she wants. Maybe. And if you go the guardian ad litem route, you at least have somebody appointed to help her in hiring another attorney, and it end routes her dad's objections. Because her dad said in all of this, if the court wants to appoint a guardian ad litem, there should be more briefing. If Lynn Spears wants to file this petition to allow Britney to hire her own attorney, there should be more briefing. So Dad Spears is continuing this, no, we need more information. No, we need more information. No, we need more information. No. Nicole super chatted and said, $50K per week in PR. That's what I make in a year. What the fuck, Dad Spears? Get out. Yeah. Matt Bond said, ooh, Daddy Spears, but naked. Sorry. It wasn't me. Lorraine E.T. says, always follow the money. Yep. Tearsure, I hope I pronounced that right, said, could Dad have denied the cost to remove the IUD, thus controlling her body without saying so? Yes. Yes, he could have. Yes, he could have. Yes, he could have. So I couldn't tell from that motion if that's what they were implying or if they were implying that the healthcare stuff, because Britney complained on the 23rd, complains, not the right word. Britney brought to the court's attention on the 23rd that she had had self-care, hair, nails, acupuncture, and things like that. So it could have been referring to that as well. We don't know. Banjo Bones Mama said, could the investigation backfire on Dad Spears? Well, it hasn't yet. And there's been at least one a year since 2008. So I don't know. Jimmy says, with people in Congress saying they want Britney to speak to Congress if she desires to do so, can the conservatorship prevent her from doing so? They shouldn't prevent her from doing so. But if she doesn't have, communication with her dad, I worry that they could deny, the travel costs. So prevent her without preventing her, but by denying the travel. Tammy says her new lawyer is supposed to be in court tomorrow, according to several articles. Do you think the court will appoint him? Well, it's not her new lawyer yet because she's not allowed to hire counsel yet. And those fees have to be approved by Dad Spears. Do I think the court will do it tomorrow? No. I think Dad Spears is going to throw a fit and say, we need more briefing. We need more information. We need more stuff. Ugh. But maybe if the court appoints a guardian ad litem and Dad can't object to that, and then the guardian ad litem hires the lawyer, and that can happen in like days. But Dad still has to approve the fees. And somebody needs to be there going, you have to approve the fees. Jimmy said we got to that one. Good, we're caught up. Yay, we're caught up. Hello, Avaloma. With the hearing closed, we know anything about the outcome anytime soon? Leaks, TMZ? If so, will you do a Reels live or YouTube upload? Depending on what happens, I will address it. Yes, it's closed. I am sure there will be reporters that have petitioned. There's already been petitions to record. Those have all been denied. I'm sure there will be some people in court if it's allowed. So we will see. But yes, information will come out, I think. And there will be minute orders filed, and we'll go over the minute orders. If that's all we get, then that's all we get. Ingham still hasn't given a reason why he decided to yeet himself. No, he has not. And it was alluded to in some of these other motions, and we've covered so many motions in hours and hours of coverage. I know it's a lot, but in some of the other motions, it alluded to personal safety. So it alluded to, in Jody Montgomery's motion, I've gotten threats and I'm not leaving. Others might, but I'm not. And then in Dad Spears' motion, it said Sam Ingham received 2 very threatening voicemails over the weekend and then filed that on a Monday. Question, can the judge push a lot of things off tomorrow? Yes. Yes, a lot's going to get pushed off. I think all the fee petitions are going to get pushed I think Bessemer will be addressed, and I think the issue of counsel will be addressed, and that's it. And Britney will be able to speak to the court tomorrow because the court will have to ascertain her desires. But based on all of those clearing notes, the money stuff's going to get pushed. The attorney stuff is first, and the Bessemer stuff, because it says it seems okay to let it go. Unless when the court talks to Britney, Britney says, no, I want my dad out, not Bessemer. And Bessemer feels confident that Britney doesn't want this whole conservatorship to end. Because what Bessemer said is, we were told this shit was voluntary, because technically it is. Bessemer saying, we were told this was voluntary. That's not what the fuck she said in court on the 23rd. So we don't want to be a part of any of this. I hope that if Britney is in court, which it seems that she will be tomorrow, at least via Zoom, that she will be able to clear up that she wants her dad out first and does want Bessemer and wants a better care plan, but does want Bessemer in charge of the finances for the time being. Mary, how in the hell did this even happen if there wasn't a capacity hearing? It was voluntary, but nobody gave Britney notice, so she couldn't object. And it got crammed through by Judge Getz. And here we are 13 years later. Question, who made the decision for Britney to have an IUD? We don't know. But we can presume that it was not Jody Montgomery, because we can presume that this would have happened not in the last 21 months during COVID. So we can presume that this happened under Dad Spears' watch. I was on a live stream on Eric Hunley's channel, and I don't remember which attorney it was. It might have been Nick Rekieta. It might have been Nate the lawyer. It might have been Viva. We were talking about Britney a bit, and it was brought up that perhaps with her tour for or her residency in Vegas, that the terms of her residency included that she couldn't stop work for any reason, including pregnancy, and that under that tour contract at that time, it was determined that this was the best thing to do because it might have been one of the terms of the contract. And yes, as a performer, the contract can say you can't get pregnant during this residency because we can't miss shows. And if you are sick, if you have high risk, if you have things that you need, we can't get pregnant. You can't get pregnant during this period of time. That would not be a completely unreasonable or unfathomable term in a residency contract like that. And so that determination might have been made at that time. So that's, it's something I hadn't even considered. And when they brought it up, I'm like, yeah, that probably would have been a term in one of those contracts. And that's probably where this started with regard to her being on tour and performing. So there's that. Hello. Hi. Oh, I think I'm going to pronounce that right or wrong. Hyacinta, drag queen. The photo's gorge. I love it. Isn't Montgomery quite late with the new plan for Britney? Why now? Why now? Why this care plan? I'm going to keep making Legally Blonde references. Why now? Why so late? Hasn't she realized before Dad Spears didn't approve more money for Britney's wishes? It really might not have come up. Britney might not have brought it up before the 23rd. That's possible. Or she's doing it now because of the public outcry and didn't. I don't know why it wouldn't have been done before, but we wouldn't have known if the care plan's been modified behind the scenes because that would all be sealed. Like there's not real conversation of that in the record because that's between Jody Montgomery and Britney's medical team to decide what her care plan is. I think COVID probably frustrated some of that plan and definitely changed things. So I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing on the record that indicates why, but I think COVID probably frustrated all of this. So that's part of it. And my chat just jumped, so I missed some. I saw some other questions. Did I see the ACLU getting involved? Kathleen, I have not seen it filed yet in court, but if it is filed, I'll comment on it in a reel or, in a reel and a short, probably. What's keeping Britney from having a decent amount of say when she's 40? Her care plan and this conservatorship. Question, where does Dad want the conservatorship to go upon his death? He must have a will for this. No idea who he contemplated taking over as conservator of the estate. No idea. That I've never seen that information shared anywhere. If anyone sees it, please send it to me. A question from Julie and her heathen horde. Such a great name. How was this considered voluntary when they denied her notice at the beginning? And how has this never come up in court? This has come up in court. This has been argued over. There was an appeal that went up to the federal courts to try to block this conservatorship from becoming permanent. I have actually been digging into that to do kind of a look back at what all unfolded at the beginning of this, because I have not dug into it that deeply. It's quite a lot of information in court records. But there were those who tried to block this from becoming permanent, and the judge signed it before. The judge signed it, and there are questions about whether the judge had the authority to sign this to make it permanent because of the federal appeal, and whether the federal appeal had stayed this judge's jurisdiction over the case or not, and they just kept plowing forward with it. So there are some procedural things at the beginning of this conservatorship that seem sketch. They are suspicious. There was quite a ramming through of this conservatorship, even though there were those trying to stop it. So how did they deny her notice and then call it voluntary? They did. They did, and they blocked everyone who tried to object and got restraining orders against them. Question, how can she get rid of Dad Spears as a conservator? Well, she needs a new conservator of the estate to take over first, and it had been my hope when the court indicated in November that they were not removing Dad Spears because they wanted Bessemer to get up to speed on the estate because it's extensive. So they wanted Bessemer to get up to speed so that Dad Spears could be removed later. The court said that she would entertain that motion down the road and seemed to want a transition period because of the complexity of the estate. But then Sam Ingham didn't file the fucking petition to actually officially get Bessemer onto the team until June. And then after the June 23rd hearing, the thing was signed on the 30th, and on July 1st, Bessemer's like, we don't want any part of this. So they never actually got to come in and start looking at the books to transition over. Until somebody takes over as conservator of the estate, Dad Spears can't be removed because it could damage the estate, and the court doesn't want that to happen. Nobody wants that to happen. But Sunshine, I get asked this a lot. What if people gifted her attorney's fees or does pro bono? Lawyers can't just volunteer and show up to court and be like, free Britney. You can't do like a GoFundMe. The question is whether the court will allow her to hire an attorney, not whether she has the money, not whether there's attorneys willing, which clearly there are. I'm sure Jody Montgomery has been getting phone calls of attorneys going, hi, Miss Montgomery, free Britney. I'm here. I would love to be hired. And that Jody Montgomery can't vet these lawyers, but could pass that information along. That's why Jody Montgomery made the motion for a guardian ad litem to let that individual hire the attorney on Britney's behalf and then step out of the picture. But no, you can't just show up at court and be like, I represent this person. They have to hire you. They have to hire you, even if somebody else pays the fees. And the court previously ruled that Britney wasn't allowed to do that. Now, this court has to overturn that previous ruling and say, yes, we're finding that Britney can hire her own attorney, which will overdo the previous ruling that Britney was not allowed to. Question, isn't the Supreme Court located not in a state where the con thing is extended? The Supreme Court of the United States is in Washington, D.C., I don't know if the conservatorship's extended to Washington. I would guess that it has not been. Can Britney reach out to Bessemer on her own, or would it be through her lawyer or Montgomery? It would be through her lawyer to reach out to Bessemer. And it was through her attorney that she signed the paperwork that we saw in the motion that I covered, that she said to Bessemer, I want you to be the conservator. It was signed by her, but her statement in court was, I don't want any of this fucking shit. And that statement needs to be further clarified. But now that Sam Ingham is like, I'm not your lawyer anymore, Britney has no one working on her behalf to clarify with Bessemer that it's not Bessemer that's the problem, it's her dad. Question, can Britney not use other people's money like the boyfriends? For what it would depend. Like Britney's boyfriend can't book a vacation and then take Britney on vacation. She would still have to get permission to do that. And using other money to hire a lawyer meets the same issues we've talked about previously. The court has to allow that attorney to come in. You can't just, the court has to allow you to come onto the case, and the court has to allow Britney, because of that prior ruling, to hire counsel. Nola Ray, question, is the court going to be forced to address the fact that there was no capacity declaration and that they dropped the ball long ago? No, because they've continued going on like this. But the court is saying in their notes very clearly there's no capacity declaration here, which I think lays the groundwork for this court to overturn the prior judge's ruling that Britney can't hire a lawyer. I think that's why it's in those notes. So the court can say, no, you said on October 10th in the minute orders it's there. It's not there. We can't find it. This is voluntary. So Britney has the right to do more. And I think that that is, I think that that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to try to catch up on questions, and we only have about 15 minutes left, but we're going to get to as many questions as we can. Hello, Kate. Could the lawyer do this for free to avoid having to ask dad for money, or is that even possible? I think I've already answered that. Not possible. I did say the ACLU thing didn't show. I'll double check it before the end of stream. Do I expect big changes tomorrow? No. I expect this all to move slowly. I expect us to get a ruling about Bessemer, and I expect to maybe see a ruling with regard to the attorney. Though to say if Britney's allowed to hire her own attorney, which I'm hoping happens tomorrow, that would actually be a big change. But then it would be like, Britney's got her own attorney. Awesome. And then everything's going to go over for months and months and months because Britney's attorney would then need to get up to speed. This is quite a lot of information on just the publicly available documents. It's thousands and thousands of documents, and each of those documents can be quite a substantial amount of pages. We'll talk about this on Wednesday's episode of The Emily Show with regard to Jen Shaw, but it's quite a lot of documents. It's quite a lot of litigation, and somebody's going to have to go through all of this. Minnie asks, is this an all-day hearing? No, it's a 1:30 to 4:30 hearing. Question, take dad out of the way. If Congress wants Britt to testify, could someone else pay her expenses if Jody agrees to have her testify? I don't know how that would work procedurally, but I don't see why it would be an issue if I don't know, if somebody sent a plane for her and was like, get in, loser, we're going to testify before Congress. Wouldn't that be great? If Kim Kardashian rolls up in like the Kardashian family plane and is like, get him, Britt, we're going to Congress. We're going to go change the laws. I don't know how that would work. And it depends, because so far she's been restricted from traveling where the conservatorship doesn't extend. But we will see. If Britney has her own attorney would probably go with her. I think the court is laying the groundwork to allow it. I worry that the court defers too much to Dad Spears when he says things like, we need more briefing, we need more information. And that's what he's saying with regard to Lynn Spears' petition. And Dad Spears is arguing that Lynn Spears' petition doesn't have standing, and arguing that Jody Montgomery's petition for a guardian ad litem, we need more information. Like, he's trying to delay all of this, which I hate. Hello, Pocket Angie. By the way, I saw your DM. I'm going to get to that today. I wanted to clarify that as I moved on, and then went, no. My brain was like, no, you had something else to say. Question, have you ever considered doing periodic law breakdown movie reviews like The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It? Also, if you've never tried Kyle Hard Kombucha, you definitely should. I have not tried Kyle Hard Kombucha. That sounds amazing. I would do movie review breakdowns. It's a time thing. And when all of this slows down, then maybe. I think once the court, the question is, couldn't a lawyer just offer to work for Britney pro bono if the court, Dad Spears, denied the fees? No, because the fees aren't the issue. It's the being allowed to hire is the issue. The court will find, if the court lets Britney hire her own attorney, the court will approve the fees through Dad Spears. So the reporter of the judge can give to the public we will have that. I have no idea the question, Alexandria. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Alicia says, for Bessemer and Jody, couldn't the court ask Britney her wishes? Yes, I think that's going to happen tomorrow. at least get the record straight from her. Yes, I think that's going to happen tomorrow. Diane said, I pray that someone leaks the court proceedings. There will be no recordings of the court proceedings tomorrow. The court has completely shut down their remote audio access. If somebody's in court, they won't be allowed to live tweet it because they will say no one's allowed to have devices out. We will not know until the end of the court hearing or until the minute orders are filed, if anyone's even allowed in the courtroom. If I was still in LA, I would drive to the court myself and be like, hey, but I'm not. Question, are there background checks or determination whether a person's qualified to be a conservator? Generally not so much when it's a family member, more when it's a professional who is a professional fiduciary. Meme. Question, since Britney's awful dad is controlling her money, can a person donate to help? And I think I answered that. See, I only see the beginning of the questions. Question, Elena, I imagine that part, like Dad Spears and stuff, don't have access to Britney. I hope that her security has her best interest at heart. Question, does the judge care about Free Britney and the way the conservatorship is being perceived worldwide? I have no way to know this, so it would all be speculation. There's no way the court's not aware, but here's my concern. Hold on. My lips are like, I've been talking so much. I've been talking so much. We need more gloss. There's not enough gloss in the world today. There really isn't. I do have thoughts. All right. Here are my thoughts. Now that we're glossed up with pink frosting from Gerard Cosmetics, it's got a little mirror. I love it. I call it lightsaber lip gloss, but you can't call it that because, but it's got a little light. Because, intellectual property is a thing. Does the judge care about Free Britney and the way this is being perceived? I think that what the public would want is that the judge to feel empathetic towards the Free Britney movement, to feel that the judge has questions about what's going on. I worry that with the death threats all the parties involved are getting, that the court is aware of. I don't know if the courtroom's been getting calls and stuff too, because those numbers are all public. And with the leak to the New York Times and with the leaked audio, that the judge is just fucking pissed about the public fervor over this case. I worry that the judges care about the Free Britney movement is that the participants in this are getting harassed and threatened, that it's causing them to resign from their positions, and that court proceedings that should not be exposed to the public have been exposed to the public. And that is going to make the court more frustrated than anything. When listening to the end of that hearing, the judge was pissed. The judge was pissed about the leak to the New York Times. And the judge was pissed that the audio recording was being shared on the internet and then re-uploaded. The court did then copyright claim it and try to take it all down. I'm sure there's parts of it still up inside of other people's videos and stuff like that. But the court was really upset. And the court made it clear. We read the full, we read parts of the transcript at the in one of Jody Montgomery's other motions. We read the transcript where the court said, no live tweeting, no this, no that. And those things still happen. And the court was not happy about it. So I worry that the court's awareness of the Free Britney movement is that she thinks that these are the people that are perpetrating the death threats against others in this case, the lawyers, the conservators, and what have you, and that does not make the judge empathetic, and that makes the judge less likely to want to remove this conservatorship because of those safety concerns. Because I imagine the judge has safety concerns for Britney as well. Question, do you think the last attorney planned to file to cancel and stop because Jamie Spears made him? I'm not sure, Renee, what that is regarding. I apologize. Warren said, does Britney have HIPAA rights? Yes and no. The powers of the conservatorship include medical documents being given to the conservators. And that is in the additional rights that we've gone over today a little bit and gone over in others. So yes, she has innate HIPAA rights. but also the conservatorship allows for the disclosure of her medical information to the conservator of the person and in sum to the conservatorship of the estate as needed. Lauren said, if this is voluntary, can the amount of money her father is earning being investigated and taken into consideration if it's out of line? There are annual investigations, but yes, it's something her new attorney can raise. The thing is, the court has signed off on all of these, so it's really hard to go back and unring that bell or put the shit back in the horse because the court's already approved all of this. The court has rubber stamped what's happening. All of the monies spent go through Dad Spears and then they get approved by the court. We're seeing objections now to the amount of money Dad's lawyers are spending. And those objections come from both Ingham and Lynn Spears' lawyers. But if there weren't objections in the past, then there's not much that can be done because the court approved it. It would be hard to undo. We talked about that a little bit earlier about Dad, what happens if something happens to Dad. Black Alchemist said, question, do you think Ingham's resignation may also be partly a way of trying to get the court to approve to appoint the guardian ad litem? No, because Ingham filed a fucking petition to approve a new court-appointed counsel. Ingham did not say, I want to resign and I will help transition Britney to an attorney of her choosing. And upon Britney hiring that attorney, then I'll resign. That's not what he said. He filed the petition to appoint new court-appointed counsel from the court-appointed counsel list. So he could have done that differently. He could have filed a motion, but he didn't. So, meh. Question, if it's voluntary, does Britney saying it isn't not make it void? Does Britney saying that it's not voluntary make it void? There still has to be a petition filed to terminate the conservatorship. So that still has to happen. Britney saying it in court is not enough, unfortunately. Question, can she address the court with no lawyer? No. I don't think the court will allow it. Question, what the actual fuck? Yes, Emily, what the actual fuck? Question, is it even legal to not consult her if it's voluntary? This doesn't even make sense. Kate, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, but there's a lot of things they haven't had to consult her for and a lot of motions that Dad Spears said, Britney, we don't have to consult with Britney because of the power we have as conservator. Once they have the power, they're allowed to. Robin says, I am completely fuming with anger at the solid evidence pointing to the people surrounding Brit manipulated her, insinuating legal fallacies and threatened her with loss of her children for compliance. It sure fucking feels that way based on everything she said, based on the New Yorker article, and based on what we're seeing in these deep, deep, deep court records. Yeah, it sure feels that way. The thing in this too, to remember, is this isn't the only judge looking at this. The family law court looks at this too. So Judge Gordon, who used to be Commissioner Gordon, who used to be one of my law school professors actually, is the family law judge in charge of the divorce. And the family law judge looks at this stuff too, with regard to the rights Britney has to see her kids and those things. And there's questions about that case too. So it's just. Patricia asks a great question. If it's voluntary and it's not a question of capacity, can she get out without being subject to an evaluation? I think her attorney has room to make that argument. I don't know if the court will be inclined to do it after 11 years. Matt Bond, I loved her new photos. Doesn't look like panda eyes. Matt, are you referring to me and my panda eyes? Or are you referring to Britney? Question, does Dad have a will? This has been, I think I've answered this a lot. We have no idea if Dad has a will or not. I'm sure that he does. Question, anyone else feel like Dad bringing up Ingham's threats and subsequent resignation in the same filing as denying JM security as a veiled threat? Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I absolutely do. I keep seeing you guys saying the ACLU filed an amicus brief. It hasn't popped up and populated in court yet, but I'll refresh and take a look. The court website's down. Hold on. Let me take a look real quick. I know it said it's been filed. I'm sure it has been filed. I just haven't seen it yet. And when we do, we'll get to it. Because, oh gosh, we're almost at 2 hours. Give me 1 second. Let me take a look. Because I tend to go with what I see, and I haven't seen it yet. Until I see it, it might be there. But it's not showing up under documents filed yet, and it's not showing up in the documents yet. So until it pops up, and that doesn't mean it hasn't been filed, it just hasn't populated on the website where I can take a look at it. Avaloma said, question, if the conservatorship was done improperly without notice. Well, no, they're allowed to do it without notice in circumstances. And the court made a finding that it was necessary to do it without notice, but then they should have made a finding of capacity. How is it voluntary? Why can't Britney just snap her fingers and withdraw? Yeah, because no one's made that motion yet. There is more going on behind the scenes than we know. There is more that the court has access to than we know. Though there might not be a capacity declaration filed, it doesn't mean that there isn't information that the court has regarding medical capacity that the court is keeping in mind. It doesn't know. Question. So tomorrow, Britney will have no lawyer. No, Sam Ingham hasn't been allowed out yet. It's on the docket tomorrow to allow Sam to resign. He hasn't resigned yet. The lawyer issue will be the number one thing. The number one thing tomorrow will be the lawyer. Question. Any info about the sheriff investigation? Not that I have seen. Not that I have seen. Kat Sand said this case has been set up as a catch-22 situation. Yes. Britney, by law, has rights to have this conservatorship end, but now without approval of her father, who's abusing her and thus taking her rights away. There's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. Can they investigate her social media postings? Ask Kelly. They're extremely sus. Probably not. Mario said ACLU filed an amicus brief. Could this help Britney tomorrow? It's not in the court file online yet. I have not seen it. It probably won't be considered before tomorrow because it's a bit late. They might not have standing. So it probably won't be considered for tomorrow. It doesn't mean it won't be considered going on. Brit, of course, your spiffiness. Brit is looking, which also makes me wonder, the social media posts are curious. I've seen the comment, I wish she could handle me. She cannot handle me, or she cannot handle me. She cannot hire me. I am not hireable, but I will keep breaking it down so all of us can keep an eye on what's going on. I feel like that's important. And she needs a massive law firm behind her. I am not that. And I can't lose my mind and be like, Your Honor, what the fuck? Can't. No one would listen to me. Can the state court prevent her from hiring or getting a federal lawyer? There's really no such thing as a federal lawyer unless they're a federal prosecutor. The name that I've seen bantied about is a former federal prosecutor. The state court has so far prevented her from hiring her own attorney. That ruling will have to be overdone or overruled, and the circumstances will have to be found changed to allow her to take it. So we will see what the court does. If the court approves, Violet Femme, this is a great question. If the court approves a new lawyer for Britney, can they compel Dad Spears to approve the fee? Yes. The court can say, this is an approved fee, and he cannot stop it. So yes. So I'm going to do, you guys are saying the ACLU filed it with the wrong case number. Well, then it's not going to be on the court record. If they filed it in the family law case, it's not going to be in the court record and the court won't consider it. They're going to have to fix that and refile it. Can Britney's lawyer request a new judge? There would need to be motions for that, and there would need to be reason for that. And that would have to, yes, but there's a lot that would have to happen for that to be appropriate. So yes, but I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Okay. We have been going for 2 hours. My voice is still tired from this week. Here's what's coming up this week. We know Britney has a court hearing tomorrow. I will be paying attention to it. That court hearing probably won't be done till 6 something my time, and we might not have that information tomorrow. If there is crazy information, I will do a YouTube short. If something horribly and terribly explosive happens, I will contemplate going live. I'm not anticipating that. I am anticipating doing like a YouTube short or reels or posting on social media. We will see. There's a new audio episode of the Emily Show out. The video episode will be up at some point. I'm thinking Thursday. I'm waiting on something for that. Waiting on approval for a sponsor for that. That would be good. But those have to go out for approval. What else? We will be back with Friday Night Live. There is a lot going on. This week's episode of The Emily Show, which if you don't follow is my podcast, it's on your favorite podcasting app. There are also a playlist of Emily Show episodes here. The new cover art should be populated in iTunes, and that is a deep dive into Jen Shaw's motions with regard to her case. I couldn't hear, Your Honor, my contacts were dry. It is a deep dive into all of that. It was like 300 pages of legal filings that I tried to condense into somewhat over an hour. It's a lot of stuff. We have been live. I think something's airing that I'm a part of that should be airing tomorrow. So if that airs on TV, I will share it with you. What else? That's all. That's all for this week. So lots happening. Stay tuned. If you don't follow me on social media, do that at the Emily D. Baker. If you're not part of the text crew, do that. Textemily.com if you're in North America, because stuff gets there first when stuff's going on, and then it will get out in the rest. There's so much happening, you guys. So wild. Thank you. The I Love Cursey Words shirt is available at the Law Nerd shop. I love it too. I think that's everything. Amy Yost, I can't hear you, my honor. My contacts are dry. Exactly. I can't hear. The dog ate my vision. Exactly. All right. I saw a few super chats come in right at the end. Y'all they come in right as I'm wrapping up. Okay, I'm going to cover the ones I can see, and that's it. Kat V, question, do you think her ex-husband took extreme advantage of the situation for more child support? And will things change with it after all of this? I don't think the family law court will undo what they've done based on all of this, because there were separate hearings in the family law court, separate procedures in the family law court. Do I think the situation was ripe to be taken advantage of to take Britney's kids away and stuff? Yes, it was. I have not looked into that case enough to speculate about what was done, but we know that Kevin Federline has most of the custody there, and we don't know why. A lot of that is sealed. So could somebody, who hasn't taken advantage of Britney Spears at this point? It feels like, right? Can Britney's lawyer request a new judge? We talked about that. So I had missed the one above. Was there no capacity finding or no medical capacity finding? It said there was no medical capacity and no capacity declaration. So both of those. But it had both of those in the record. So capacity declaration and medical capacity. Shout out to the mods. Yay. And that's why it went on in those notes to talk about it being voluntary and to talk about the procedure for that. I think a new lawyer will absolutely get into the heart of this. And the mods have shared one more that I missed. I'm sorry, I missed one other super chat from court. So with the other team not looking at the books, is it possible that Daddy Spears has gone wild with her money and it will be a shock when someone finally gets there to see things? Everything he does is supposed to go through the court accountings. So there shouldn't be any surprises, because when we were talking about the 12th accounting and 13th accounting, those accountings are voluminous and they go to the court annually, showing what the conservatorship is spending money on. Giving Sam Ingham the opportunity to object to expenses, having oversight by the court, having hearings on it. There shouldn't be surprises. It doesn't mean there can't be once somebody else gets their eyes on it. But the books of the estate go through the court as well, go to Sam Ingham as well. It's not just Dad Spears has unlimited reign. These things have to be approved by the court. So court, thank you. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. We will see what happens tomorrow. Stay tuned. We will see. There's a lot. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you for being a Law Nerd. I will see you in the next one and around the social medias. Bye. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.